you an HR department of one trying to figure out how to balance task and strategy while keeping up with changes in regulatory compliance? Do you need a fresh outlook on old topics? Then stop what you're doing, grab your coffee, and get ready to recharge. If you have people, you have problems to solve and things to do. Your host is Brenda, a 20-year human resource professional, ready to explore the HR industry with veterans of business and life with fresh eyes and new ideas. Learn about the rapidly evolving changes in employment law around the country, as well as new tactics to deploy and build engagement in your workforce. If you're looking to implement new practices to make your job easier in HR, then this podcast is for you.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best Practices in Human Resources podcast. Here we are, another episode. I am back out on the road again. Crazy busy time for everybody. The book is out. It has made the number one release in 3 different categories. And I really need to take a moment to thank you guys so very much for making that happen. That was just absolutely excellent. A lot of people are starting to, they're really excited about getting it. And, it's kind of interesting when you write a book and you tell your story. You sit there and you think like, who wants to hear that? But you know what? There's so many people who do. It's crazy. And it blows my mind. So if you get a copy of the book, I would love to hear what you guys think of it. You feel free to go ahead and drop me a line anywhere on social. If you have a testimonial, I'd love to have it. And you know what? Share your stories. Let's share your stories as well. And if you guys could also give a 5-star review on Amazon.com, that would be wonderful, because you know what? That's how really great people find things, is awesome reviews and on all the different platforms. So that goes for the podcast too, and I really greatly appreciate those of you who have left reviews. You can leave them over on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, over at Stitcher and iHeartRadio, or whatever of the other 14 platforms that are out there that you're listening to where you have found us. So, all right, so I'm going to introduce you to, give you a little blurb about some friends of ours here in just a second. But today we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome in HR and what it does and how it plays with your mind. So we're going to be right back with that. And you're going to hear a little bit about some of our friends and then our Honor Foundation sponsorship and support for our transitioning veterans. And we're going to talk to you in just a minute. I want to share with you some information about a company that can help you with the benefit option, and that's Forest Capital Management. Now, they're an independent financial advisory firm helping small and medium-sized businesses optimize their retirement plans. So whether you sponsor a 401k, a 403b, pension, or something else, it's really hard to stay up to date on the changing industry landscape. So Forest Capital Management helps plan sponsors navigate these changes by focusing on improving the fiduciary governance of the plan, benchmarking plan designs, and reducing plan expenses. So to learn more or receive a free plan analysis, which I highly recommend, contact our friends over at the program over at Forest Capital Management, who's an advisor. His name is Alex, and his email is aclegg, ACLEGG, at Forest, FOREST, That's ACLEGG at Forest, FOREST,
There are approximately 2,500 members of the U.S. Special Operations Community who transition out of active duty military service every single year. The Honor Foundation's dedicated its mission to serving these elite individuals on their journey to prepare for life once they take off the uniform. In the past few years, we've begun our own journey to reach this number, launching 3 physical campuses in San Diego, California, Virginia Beach, Virginia, and near Wilmington, North Carolina, along with a virtual campus to reach members of the community anywhere on the planet. I spent 26 years in the Special Operations community as a SEAL. I graduated from THF's program, I served on the board of directors, and now I'm proud to lead this organization into the future. to continue assisting these transitioning service members and their families. Our dedicated team, our world-class program, and our incredible tribes of supporters are standing by to help THF alumni and future fellows, and are committed to providing the best possible support system and resources to better serve this community. Our vision for the Honor Foundation is clear: to impact every transitioning service member from the U.S. Special Operations Enterprise through our programs and support, and to be a catalyst for overhauling the entire DoD transition program. It's a big task, but the community deserves it, and we're driving full steam ahead to make this a reality. If you've been inspired with what the Honor Foundation's done in the last 5 years, I welcome you all to join us as we craft the next chapter in defining what it means to serve others with honor for life.
So imposter syndrome is something that I've been hearing about more and more and more. And I don't know, maybe over the last, 5-6 months, I've heard this imposter syndrome thing. And it's funny because I never heard so much focus on it until relatively recently. And it's something that we all go through. It's really interesting. The more I hear about it, and the more people in my circle talk about it to their clients and to the people that they coach and that they help, it really, really, really hit me that, you know what, there isn't anybody out there at any level, at any point in time, do they not experience this thing that we call imposter syndrome. And really imposter syndrome is that voice in your head that basically questions who would want to pay attention to what I have to say, or I'm not qualified to be here. There's something wrong with me, and there's no reason why I should be here doing this, whatever the thing is, helping people do whatever it is that you're trying to help people with and do. And it's just this conversation of self-doubt. And it's interesting because the thing that I've learned about imposter syndrome is that it completely erases the memories of what we've done in the past. Now, I'm not talking about completely eradicating the memories. I'm talking about we often don't remember to look behind us as to where we've been and what we've accomplished over the future and what we're capable of now in the present. And everybody goes through this. Even, I would say, especially with people in HR, right? And I think it hits us I'm not saying that it hits us harder, it hits us we're more vulnerable to it, but it does have a different element to it because people in HR, we're operating most of the time as an HR department of one, which means that we don't often have anybody that we can talk to, which is kind of part of the reason why, folks like Suzanne Lucas, who's the evil HR lady, and my HR lady, and myself, we have communities where people can reach out and get help. I do mentoring in HR. I've done coaching. I make myself available, and I have a service for people to call and really get into the weeds on what it is that they're trying to achieve, right? Because that's the thing about these communities, they're awesome for asking questions, but here's where imposter syndrome really becomes a reality. And this is where people convert the notion that they're not qualified into really demonstrating that they're not. And it's when people don't take the time to really do the research and find the answer and have the right conversations with people, or ask for, the ability to spend the money to consult with somebody and find the answer. And ultimately what happens is they wind up spending a lot of time trying to research through groups and communities where, in fact, having a conversation with somebody who's more knowledgeable about something is not just about giving you the answer. It's also about taking you through the process of thinking through things that you haven't yet looked at. And so that's when imposter syndrome therefore becomes a reality, is when you live up to that feeling, but you may not necessarily know it. And you know what? I'm guilty of it too. I'm totally guilty of it myself, right? There were times where I would look for the answer to something and think I had it. And then even though after I was feeling kind of weird about like, I don't know if I'm capable of solving this situation or resolving this issue, or, why am I sitting here in this job because, I have all of this education that I haven't gotten yet and all these things, but yet when I fall short of doing the things that I know I should be doing, then I'm really not living up to that full potential. I really am not. And, there are times where, look, we don't like doing some of the things that we have to do in HR. I will tell you that, I will die a happy woman if I never, ever, ever have to administer a urinalysis for a pre-employment drug screen again. I promise you I will be fine. But imposter syndrome turns into the reality, like I said, when we live up to it. And it's easy to live up to it. When I belong to a group of executives, and we get together once a month down in Dallas, Texas, and it's an awesome group of people. They're wonderful. I love them to death. They support me. I support them. And it's my network. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but the leader of this group, he refers to, our shortcomings and the temptation to fall into that by calling it the force of average, right? The force of average is constantly upon us in a lot of different ways. We take a look and we complain about what's going in our life, but yet we seem to let it slip our brain that we actually have a say in how life is going to turn out. And you have to work for it. And if you don't, well, that's the force of average. When we come up with all these excuses as to why something is, or why we can't accomplish something, then the force of average takes us over. It gets the better part of us. And that's not healthy. That's not good. So the force of average is constantly against us. Like, I'll give you, for instance, I started going back to the gym and I've started working out again. And today was not a particularly great day. And I was literally looking at the clock coming closer to my gym time, which is at 4:00 in the afternoon. That's my time. That's when I go to the gym, or that's when I go exercise in the pool or something like that. And I take that time to unplug from my work and do something that's going to be beneficial for me. Even when I don't like doing it, because I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't like working out. I think it's boring as hell. I don't get the adrenaline rush or the endorphin rush that a lot of people get. I find nothing foxy in it, right? But when you start making excuses as to why you're not going to live up to your commitment, why you're not going to go to the gym, why you're not going to go into the pool and do your water exercises, or me, I should say, then that's the force of average coming up on you. Right? You got to rise up above all of that internal pressure, because look, it's not, motivation only hangs around for a while, right? It's fleeting. And the only way to get through that is through discipline. The only way to beat imposter syndrome is through discipline. It really is. And the more disciplined you are at doing things like taking the appropriate time to find the right answer, not accepting partial stories, right? Holding your breath and saying that one phrase that you're afraid is going to get you fired, but is true. And by the way, that means that if you have something to say that is going to prevent, the company or a manager or an employee from some form of hardship, and you're not saying anything for whatever reason, and you know it, and you neglect saying that, that's the force of average. Right? You come up with whatever raise. I've seen HR people sit there and just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. And you know what? They never take that step to figure it out. That's the force of average coming by. And then you live up to your imposter syndrome. I've seen people that sit there and they get ticked off at a manager and they're like, well, he can figure it out for himself. and don't even bother to help that person out. That's the force of average coming out right there. You know that something needs to be said, and you don't say it for whatever reason. That's the force of average. Being able to overcome that is part of what keeps you, and that keeps that little voice at bay. Right? In the book I refer to as the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee. I got that from a friend of mine down in Australia. I can never use somebody else's quote or phrase without making sure that people know that, yep, I'm stealing it from them. I just can't do that. It's not in me. I can't own that. I didn't make it up. I think it's brilliant. I told her, I'm going to use that as much as I can. I said, I'm going to have to give you credit for every time I do it because I can't own that. She just laughs. But that's what keeps your imposter syndrome alive. So crushing your imposter syndrome, how do you do it? Well, one of the things that you do is that you keep learning. I mean, HR is an evolving beast. We've seen that. Oh my gosh. I've never seen it so much as we did in 2020. And it's not done. I mean, 2021 is no different. We're just now back to a little bit more normal way of life and more normal way of being. But this is still an evolving beast, which means that it's continuous learning, right? You can talk about diversity and inclusion all you want till you're blue in the face, and that's not a bad thing, but it changes too. Compliance and regulations, those change on a regular basis now. Right? We've certainly seen it. We had a presidential shift. We've got, the primaries went in today here in Virginia, right? So it's always changing. The laws, court cases, laws are going to change. We're still waiting for the outcome of the New Mexico case as far as whether or not vaccines can be mandated or not. And matter of fact, according to the EUA, they can't. So we have to go to court to make that final determination, yay or nay. And then how do we proceed from that, right? So conquering that inner voice and that imposter syndrome is one piece of it is staying in constant education. That means you're reading. And you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. I read every single day, even if it's just the headlines. Because the more I read, the more capable I am of in-the-moment stuff, right? And when you're faced with that in-the-moment stuff, that's how you build your experience. So education is one. The other piece of it is being in action. That will absolutely crush your imposter syndrome. Because if you think about it, with that imposter syndrome, you're just sitting there, right? You're at a freeze. You're at an absolute standstill. But when it comes to being in motion and being in action and taking imperfect action, which is a little risky in HR, but you got to do the best you can sometimes, right? Sometimes you just won't have the answer. Sometimes you do have to roll the dice. But if you take action and not let things fall to the wayside, you've accomplished it. And especially when you do it despite your fears of it. Because let's face it, sometimes we put, like I've just mentioned a little while, right? You got to take imperfect action. Sometimes you have to do that. And sometimes you're going to get only so much of the information. And if that's happening more than not, then you're not doing enough research. Or you're not asking the right questions, or you're not tapping into somebody that you can talk to, right? If you're moving forward with, and you're still not feeling 100% confident about the decisions that you are making, that means that you're not really quite getting all the full information or the answers that satisfies that gut fear that you have, right? So start talking to somebody about it, right? Find somebody there's numbers on my website. You can set up a call with me and spend 20-30 minutes talking to me at a very, very affordable rate, and happy to help you work through those challenges. But it's all about taking action though. But if you take action consistently and you don't have all the information, Yeah, you're taking action, but you know what? That also feeds your imposter syndrome. Matter of fact, that just scares the crap right out of you. I've had to do that too. I've had to make decisions where I'm like, oh gosh, I know that this is the way to go, but I can't justify it. But I know that we're going to be fine. And it leaves you feeling uneasy. And there's an HR person out there that's had that experience for sure, right? We all get that at some point in time. But it should be the exception and not the norm. So your imposter syndrome, you know what? You can put that to bed. You can absolutely put that to bed. There have been many times when I've had bad cases of imposter syndrome. And I'll be honest with you. When I first started this podcast, holy cow, I was, a couple of years ago, I was thinking, who the hell wants to listen to me? What possible value would I have? How many more times do I have to talk about a job description? And who wants to hear it, right? Well, you know who wants to hear it? The people that are tuning into the show. The people like you, who's an amazing human being that has found this show. People need help with these things. And you know what? People want to hear what you have to offer. You may not always necessarily believe that, because, people have reactions. Not everybody is in a mood or a position to hear what you have to say. And sometimes it has to be a tough cookie kind of thing. But you know what? You have value to add. And so when you start hearing that little voice inside of your head that tells you that you can't do this, who you think you are for taking this on and blah, 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 just recognize it for what it is. Your imposter syndrome is flaring up, and you have you have a couple of choices. You can sit around and do nothing and let that thing rule you, and then next thing you know it, your circumstances are dictating your life, and that's no way to live. Or you can take action, either by reading, speaking, taking on something new as a challenge. That's how you conquer that little thing. So that is what I got for you guys today. So imposter syndrome, boy, we've got half of a year left. It's hard to believe. 2021 is moving so fast compared to 2020. I tell you, 2020 took forever. But 2021, this thing is flying out. We're already halfway through the year. Oh, we're halfway through the year. Can you believe that already? Man. Which means that you get to have a strong back half finish. And you know what? We're going to be here right behind you. We're going to be right by your side, walking the path with you, and keeping you guys up to date on what is going on. So look, I hope you found some value in this today. It's one of my shorter ones, like I said, running around, doing stuff, keeping up with the world. So we will talk to you guys soon. Keep smiling. Keep your chin up. Oh, and before I forget, I almost forgot. Keep a watch out on social media. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Keep a watch out on social media. Suzanne Lucas and I are touring the U.S. this summer. And for 1 week in July, we're going to be in Baltimore on the 19th of July. We're going to be in Dallas on the 21st, and we're going to be in Provo on the 22nd. And we are going to talk about how to win in HR and build your confidence. And it's going to be absolutely awesome. In addition to that, Thursday, when we're in Provo, the 22nd, I'm going to be delivering the active shooter training that we put together a year ago. And Dave, bless his heart, Acosta, who my partner had passed away, we are going to go ahead and deliver that. And for those of you who have registered for Baltimore or Dallas, we'll be able to go ahead and attend the live stream. And because you are attending our sessions, you will be able to earn up to 6 credits towards your recertification. So it's going to be an awesome workshop. Again, for those of you who are registering over in Dallas and Baltimore, you will be able to catch the active shooter training virtually and still be able to get your 2 recertification credits for participating in that course, provided you follow through on it. So that's what's going on. So you can actually find the links over on social media. Watch for our websites. You can find me over at BrendaTheHRLady.com, and we're going to get that information up here later this week. But the links, registration links, are already out there on all of our socials, particularly over on Facebook. You can find the link over either at the Next Gen Women in Facebook group, Next Gen Women in HR Facebook group. You can find it over at Brenda the HR Lady page. And if you still can't find it, you know what? You can always hit me up and DM me, and we'll go ahead and shoot that information over to you. So we hope to see you in Baltimore, Dallas, or Provo, Utah this summer. It's going to be awesome. You get to meet other HR people just like you, who are going through everything that you're going through. And best of all, you get to meet us personally. So we look forward to seeing you guys. Listen, have a really great rest of your week. Get out there and crush it, and we will talk to you all soon.